Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is December 1st, 2017. Yeah, there were none last month. I know. And yeah, so obviously we've got a bunch of stuff to cover here. We have all of last month's releases to cover, as well as the new kit announcements for January and February. We got a couple other teasers here and there that don't necessarily fit into those two things either, and yeah, so it should be a fun time. Grab an adult beverage and hang on back. We're gonna be here for a couple minutes. Uh, Again, I apologize in other videos for not doing these last month. It was just an incredibly busy month with work really just being a near constant and being just too whooped, for lack of a better term, to really do much of anything else the entire rest of the time. So things have slowed down a little bit here, so hopefully we'll be a little bit more regular. It's been a little rough year in terms of getting these things out every week compared to what was the year before last. I'm not sure why that is, because really this year's work was less strenuous in terms of like being gone out for a couple of days at a time like I was last year. You know, be it as it may, it was, and so we're looking at some new opportunities in 2018 as far as employment goes. That I guess we'll find out whether or not they're worse or better when we get there. So that being said, let's go right ahead and start covering the kit announcements from Japan. This will cover first January of 2018 and then February of 2018. In the last stash report that we did right before Halloween, or right on Halloween, we covered the January Aoshima stuff. So really what we're going to cover here from Aoshima are the restocks, which are, of course, the kits that they announced just a little bit before the month starts. These were announced last week for January, and these are just all kits that have been done in the past that are just being done simply to restock inventory at retailers. And then we have Fujimi's new, well, there's not really anything new, but we have Fujimi's stuff, Hasegawa stuff, and then we have Aoshima stuff and Fujimi stuff from 2018, for February 2018. So in January 2018, on the Aoshima reissue, again, just straight reissues of stuff that exist. Reissue of the 79 Corolla GT DX kit. That's one of the model car kits that they did earlier this year. Reissue of the 78 Gloria Cedric 280 Brome kit. Reissue of the Top Secret S15 Sylvia. Reissue of 3 sets of the 19-inch SSR Professor wheels, and they are the SP1s, the SP3s, and the MS3s. Really, if you know anything about Aoshima and their Japanese wheels, you would expect those wheels to be reissued every so often. They seem to sell really, really well. People love putting those Professors on their cars. Reissue of the Brian James A4 Transport Trailer. Reissue of the Walter Wolf Lamborghini Countach version 1. That's the red car. Or the complete red car, the box art. They did do the version 2, which is a blue car, but that kit hasn't been reissued in actually quite a while. They're going to do another run of the Pagani Warrior, another run of the Lamborghini Countach Photo Etch, another run of the Lamborghini Aventador Photo Etch, and then reissue of the Liberty Walk Nissan Skyline, the Hakasuka, which makes it a I believe it's supposed to be a 71 or 72. What is known as the Shakaten Kaji Choice, and that is the 4-door Skyline that has the Japanese Grand Prix number 15 red and white livery to it, but obviously got the over fenders and the whole Liberty Walk things there. It's a tribute car. That's one of the most recent Liberty Walk vintage kits. Obviously, there's been the R35 for the most recent Liberty Walk kit. Fujimi going to reissue the 96, or excuse me, the 95 Integra Type R, and the, I believe it's also a 95, 96 Civic Type R. These kits were most recently seen about 18 to 24 months ago in the Toge Mountain Pass series. These are going to get a reissue back in the Real Sports lineup. These things go back and forth. It seems like about every year and a half or 2 years, they put it out this way, then they put it out that way, they put it out this way, they put it out that way. There's no real differences in the actual kit contents themselves, other than there being decal differences between the Mountain Path, the Toge series, and the regular Real Sport series. They can reissue their R34 Skyline. That is their sort of snap-tight kit that they did of the R34. The reissue this time is going to come with a nameplate. This is sort of the thing they're doing with the Skylines. They're reissuing their Skylines with a nameplate that's probably about this big. It's probably with the length of the car. Sort of looks like what thing you put on a desk to state, "Hello, I'm Mr. R34 Skyline." They're also going to reissue their R32 Skyline, again with a nameplate. They're going to be reissuing their Toyota Estima van, which I believe is what we got here is the Previa. Or it might have been in the next generation. But at any rate, we didn't get the Estima as far as the naming goes. We did get the van. And it's going to be done as a police vehicle as well as a fire vehicle. The fire vehicle specifically is a like information officer type of deal. I believe the van is just like a transport van. So still cashing in on that light commercial aspect that Aoshima sort of kicked off with the little Subaru Sandbar fire trucks. And then last but not least, they're going to reissue their BMW M635 CSI. The reason this is a little interesting, you could argue the Tamiya kit is easier to put together just simply because it's not as many parts. The M6 that Tamiya did. Now this is like a 1985 M6, by the way, guys. So keep in mind the era. That kit is a full detail kit, but it is a Tamiya kit where more effort is put into the outside and the interior to a certain extent, and things that aren't seen aren't given to you. It's always been a sort of a lame complaint from certain people about Tamiya kits. They aren't like 25-piece engines when they don't. Well, they don't have to be. You can't see that much. So the engine in this is pretty, in the Tamiya kit, and there's also a Tamiya race version, are pretty, robust considering because an inline 6 is kind of just hanging out there for everything to see. The M6 that Fujimi did is an Enthusiast Series kit, so it is 200 plus pieces, and this is the Enthusiast Series kit coming back out. There was never a real sports curbside version ever made out of this. The only way it ever came was as an Enthusiast Series kit, so you could pick up an Enthusiast Series M6 for like $22. Good luck go finding an original one of those, or the 2002 reissue of it for anything less than about $50. So if you happen to like that car, and you've always wanted the Enthusiast Series version of it, now will be your opportunity to get it next month. I personally will not, because I already have an Alpina. I want to say it's an Alpina, right? Yeah, it's an Alpina and a Hardage version. There are technically, I think there were 5 versions done altogether. There's at least 4. There's a race version, a regular street version, a Hardage version, and an Alpina version. I have the Alpina and the Hardage version. I already have a Tamiya street version, just a regular M635. So, I don't need 2 of them, but if you don't happen to have one, it's a very convenient way to get a very good 1985 M635. Mainly because Monogram did do an M635 as well, but again, that's an old kit, and you're not going to be able to find it. And the Tamiya kit's been out of production. The street version has been out of production for a very long time. I think the race version last got reissued in 2012 or 2013 as the Jägermeister car, and those are impossible to find for some reason. So, at any rate, yeah, that's that. I'm kind of jazzed about that because it's one of the kit I necessarily expected to see come back out. Hasegawa for the month of January going to reissue their Civic Sear Type 2 or Sear 2. That's the 3-door Civic with the red car on the box art. They're going to reissue their Mitsubishi Lancer. Excuse me, guys, still working on the cold thing. Better today than it was the other day when I filmed the other stuff. Lancer Evo 4. Reissue of their Mazda 767B prototype series race car in the Finish Line livery. The reissue of the Toyota 2000 GT in its race format is the 1965 500 kilometers of Suzuka. I say race format because the kit doesn't come with a roll cage. It comes with a bunch of tubing that you have to bend into a roll cage. Again, at the time, there wasn't a lot of race car stuff that went into a race car in 1967, especially in Japan. There were, what would be called Group A or Group N, where it's very, very close to being factory, factory stock, like literally factory stock. The thing you hear in NASCAR people complain about, back when the cars look like real cars, that sort of thing. So there's not a whole heck of a lot of race stuff going into this. Obviously, the decals, but it's another another whack at a racing version of one of those. I haven't seen this version out in a very long time, if it's ever been done at all. I haven't done the research to look back far enough to see if there was this version, but it's not the one that always comes out. This is one has been around for a while. And then a really interesting sort of surprise, if you will. They're going to reissue their BMW 318i Sogo Security Japanese Touring Car Championship kit. When they reissued the 318 BMW kits, these ones right here, there was the Japanese Touring, what do they call that? The Autotech version. And then there was the Steve Soper Team Schnitzer ones. We would call this the Stash T, which I always want to just take the T part off and use that as my logo, but then I get sued. And then there was the Schnitzer one for the British Touring Car Championship. The one kit that is missing out of those kits being done was the Sogo Security one, which is a black and white car. White car, black side panels. A lot of the wording and livery is in Japanese on it, and it was not reissued at the time. And I've been working to try to get a couple of different decal places to maybe reproduce the set of decals for it. And I got some interest in it. Like, oh yeah, that's something we'd look, maybe we'd be interested in doing in the future. But in the future has taken like 18 months now and it still hadn't come out. So Hasegawa, thankfully, is filling the slot because there weren't a lot of 318i's run in JTCC. There were like 3 or 4 of them. There are probably another 2 or 3 liveries that could be made if somebody wanted to take the effort to do it. Problem being, trying to get vintage photos from like 1993 and 1994, which is not really vintage, but at this point, it is, 20 some odd years ago. It's not digital photos. There aren't copies of it everywhere, kind of thing. But excited to have that one back. That'll be a nice little fill for my JTCC collection. And last but not least, another surprise, only because this is such an odd kit, and that is the Zaxby's ZK 891 F1 car in 1/24 scale. Hasegawa did several F1 cars, all for, I think, the 1989 season in 1/24 scale, which makes them itty-bitty tiny little things, because if you've ever looked at a modern F1 car on a contest table, or you've seen the contents to an F1 kit, you know that 1/20th scale the car really isn't all that big. F1 cars are itty-bitty little canisters on wheels, basically, just big enough to shove a driver in, throw some wings on, and roll down the racetrack. So 1/24 scale is really small. It fits in with all of the rest of the stuff, so it's kind of interesting from that aspect. For the true scale bigots who are all like, I'll never build a 1/20 scale kit ever in my entire life. Well, now here's an F1 kit in 1/24 scale. What you gonna do about that? The Zaxby's SK891 is specifically an amusing choice. I know why it was done, because one of the drivers that was piloting this car is a Japanese driver, and it was one of, not his initial season in F1, but the beginning of his career. Not a tremendously successful guy in racing, won a couple of races at Suzuka in F1, but not, beyond that, not the most successful driver. I mean, good driver, don't get me wrong, but not, was not winning championships, not Michael Schumacher, obviously. Who then went on to have his own F1 team, his own EF1 team that he recently sold. He has the Super GT teams. He has one top flight team and one GT3 team. So, I mean, the guy certainly made his bones off racing, no doubt about it. But this particular car, because I think it was the 881, was such a stink bomb of a car, had to pre-qualify to get into events. In its history, it never managed to actually get into any event at all with the Japanese driver, and only one event with the, I believe he might have been Spanish driver. I should probably look up his nationality, but irrelevant. It only ever ran one race in the entirety of the 1989 season, of which it finished like 24th and had mechanical failure like 10 laps into the race. It is honestly one of the most awful F1 cars ever made. And not like, I mean, there were ones obviously more dangerous and killed people and things like that. But as far as just a pathetic, I think it had a Yamaha engine in it, which was constantly underpowered. It's just a real hootenanny of a vehicle in its own right, just because of how awful it was performance-wise. And then to make it in the wrong scale for F1 cars on top of it, also amusing. So I don't know if they're going to release the entire 124 scale series of these F1 cars. It almost makes sense to do that because you're going to release one. Why would you not release the others? What are you going to do with one 124 scale F1 car? But be that as it may, that's something to look forward to in January if you're into that sort of thing. In February of 2018, Aoshima's frontline stuff. This is always the stuff that's, sort of being reboxed or it's new. In the model car series, you're going to get the 2007 Nissan 350Z version ST, the 1981 Toyota Corolla GT DX. This is a slightly different version than that 79 we said was being reissued. Again, it's a combination of two different kits. They've released the GT, they released the DX. This will be the two things combined into one box. And then a reissue of the 1970 Nissan GTR, done up for the 1970 Japanese Grand Prix. Back, of course, when Grand Prix was full-size cars and not Grand Prix like an F1 series. Over on the Toon model car side of things, two reissues. The 1998 Toyota Chaser JZX 100 chassis, Toyota Racing Development car. Just some ground effects and aero there compared to the normal kit. And then a reissue of the 2001 Honda Stepwagon in the DAD VIP van livery ground effects package. I don't know that their version of the Honda Stepwagon ever got a factory stock release or not. I'd have to really go dig that and look. I know that it's got a bunch of VIP versions. The Stepwagon, if you want a civilian Stepwagon, just a regular Stepwagon without too much fuss. So I'm going to bump this up a sec. I keep losing the top of my hat in the picture there. It's done by Fujimi, and that was reissued probably about 2 years ago. It's still easily findable. There are going to be 4 19-inch wheel sets for the month of February, and they are the Amistad. Oh man, I don't have to just crank. I can't even read my own writing. The Amistad Retro or Retino, excuse me. The Kranze Barmef, the Kranze LXZ, and the Leonhardt LD5. All of them VIP style wheels. If you don't know what those are, go Google them. And then the one sort of new kit for the month of February will be the Liberty Walk Nissan GTR. This is the R35 version in version 2. This is effectively the exact same body kit that the version 1 has as far as the over fenders and everything. I believe almost all of it, or all of it, is exactly the same. It has a different set of wheels, and it has an actual rear spoiler. The version 1 sort of has like a ducktail spoiler for the trunk. This has a more like a GT3 style spoiler for the rear deck, so those are your changes there. Fujimi, for the month of February, has one brand new kit coming out, and that is the Suzuki Hustler that we have talked about in the past. If you pay attention to like online and vendors and things like that, you know that Aoshima just released a 1/32 snap-tight version of the Suzuki Hustler, along with a 1/32 scale snap-tight Toyota Prius. Only time we're going to talk about those, wrong scale snap-tight. Yeah, not scale big, but just 1/32 doesn't do anything for me. It's just, if I start covering 1/32, I got to start covering trucks and stuff like that. Because if you don't know, Japanese trucks are 1/32 scale. But this is a 1/24 scale kit. It is something along the akin to their Toyota Veilside an Alfred van. Still waiting on the stock Alfred version of that kit, where it is going to be molded in color. Your choices are going to be passion orange or summer blue metallic. So the body will be molded in color, whether you like it or not. They're not quite snap-tight kits, I don't believe. They might be. I'd have to look. I can't remember if they say they need glue or not. But they're sort of a simplified kit and things like that. But it's kind of fun to have a Suzuki Hustler in 1/24 scale. Probably get the blue one, and the orange one doesn't do anything for me color-wise, and I don't really paint it orange. I would paint it blue and be okay with it being molded in blue. They're going to reissue their Suzuki Wagon R in the Type RR and the Type RR Suzuki Sports versions, which are a tuner version and a really tuner version of that vehicle. There is a Wagon R that's just sort of a factory stock version that's available from Fujimi as well. They're going to reissue their Mini Cooper Kumanon version. That is the one that looks like a giant panda bear that was done as some weird Japanese connection to the Mini Factory's 100th anniversary. That was a one of the first, what was known as the Easy kits, which were snap-tight kits or kits that were glue kits, like the Mini Cooper, the newer Mini Cooper is, but had like vinyl stickers and things like that. So I assume it'll keep that part because, I mean, it has a giant panda face on the front of it, so that you need the vinyl stickers there. Reissue of the Toyota TE27 Levin. I'm trying to figure out what's different about this than the one that's always around. I mean, anybody who buys Japanese kits and has any sort of interest in Toyotas probably has one of these Levins, or itty bitty little two-door car. It was like a 1973 or so. Pretty much every single person. I actually don't have one because I didn't buy one way back when. And I could go buy one now, but it's just one of those things that never seems to slip my mind when I'm doing orders. That almost, I think every single person who builds JDM cars has built one or has one to build, because it's a very basic Fujimi curbside. It's not motorized or anything else like that, so it's not real crappy, but it's just a really, really basic kit. Right now, I believe Hobbylink Japan has them for $8.18. That's how old and simple this kit is, but it's one of those canvas type models where you can do a lot of stuff with it rather than just build it factory stock. So it's being reissued, and I'm not exactly sure what about it, because the Japanese to English translation doesn't really make any sense. What about it is different that it justifies it being $10 more than the other one? So have to keep an eye on that one to see what exactly is going on there. But again, it's February, so got a couple months to figure it out. And then they're going to be reissuing 4 of their Lamborghini Countach kits, I believe, based on the written material that has come with this announcement, that these are all going to be Enthusiast Series kits. So they're all going to have full engine detail, because at least 3 of the 4, if not all 4 of them, have a real sports curbside version too. I believe these are going to be Enthusiast Series kits. We'll again keep you up to date as time comes along. But they're going to reissue their Lamborghini Countach 5000 Quattro, their Lamborghini Countach LP500S, which is the only one of those that is out there other than the kind of shady Tamiya kit. Lamborghini Countach 25th Anniversary, again the only version of that Countach that exists, and a reissue of their Lamborghini Countach LP400, of which there is a shady Tamiya kit and a, I don't know what to call it, a superior Aoshima kit, but certainly one that's a lot simpler to build than the Fujimi Enthusiast Series, just because of how many parts the Enthusiast Series kit has. So there's that. One other thing we're going to tease real quick, because it is a new announcement that is going to be coming out in February, and that is this. From Hasegawa. Now, we haven't got any official news that it's really going to come out in February, although we haven't gotten February's Hasegawa kits yet, so we'll see what's on there. And that is these Isuzu, little Isuzu Gemini. I can't remember what it was called here in the United States, other than being a Chevy Nova. There was also a Isuzu version here. It's like I something or other. Yeah, so this is an interesting foundational piece. A lot of people wonder why they're doing a baseline 4-door first. Don't argue with Hasegawa. They're gonna make 10 versions. They're gonna make 10 versions. At least 3 versions, right? Everything has 3 versions to it. They're gonna make several versions of this kit. What do I expect to see out of this tooling other than this baseline 4-door? Well, there was a turbocharged version that was done by a company out of Germany that slips in my mind right now. I should have wrote it down, but I did not. There was a turbocharged version that was sold in Japan, and there was also a Lotus tuned version that was sold in Japan. We did not get those here in the United States in either the Isuzu or the Chevy Nova version. We got little donkey Econo boxes. They got some tuned, not sports cars, but I mean for the car being what it is and having about 150, 180 horsepower, especially at that time of life in the 80s, it was a pretty spiffy little car. They're the more reasonably known versions of the turbocharged one and the what was known as the ZZ, which was the Lotus tuned one, are 3 doors. So I would expect to see a hatchback version of this Gemini at some point, only because the 3-door also fills a slot as a JTCC, Japanese Touring Car Championship, race car. If it was put out as the year that it needs to be put out as, it would plug the one missing hole from the JTCC Racing Series for about 3 years in the early 1990s, late 80s, early 1990s, because you could build the BMWs, you can build the Sierras, although that's technically speaking, you need an out-of-production Tamiya kit. Why have you not reissued that kit, Tamiya? Have you not noticed that 1980s sport race cars are popular again? BMW 635i, again, you need or 635i, 635 CSI, again, you need a Tamiya, or a Tamiya kit for the early 80s, and then after that, they became the M3, which, of course, is the B-Max kit. And then there is the Toyota 11 that B-Max did, and the Honda Civic that B-Max did. This Isuzu is pretty much the only car that you can't build. The Gemini 3-door was the only one. Only a couple of teams ran it, but it's, one of those, again, it's a hole that exists. I think it's great. I mean, aside from the fact it's just an oddball thing to make in the first place, if they can really make a 3-door race car out of this and plug that little hole, that may sort of kick a few decal makers into not overdrive, but at least into making some more of the liveries. Because with this with a Gemini JTCC car out there, you legitimately from like 1988 through about 1991, I think it is, you could then really legitimately make every single car that ran in JTCC. The BMWs plug a lot of the holes. The B-Max Honda Civic comes as the Pia kit, and then it comes as the Rezos kits. The 11 is Minolta livery. One of the other cars that ran right at the end of there, of course, is the Toyota Supra, which again is another out-of-production Tamiya kit. But if you could find one, even if the decals are trash, there's Shunko replacements that are readily available. We need the Hasegawa. We race car builders. We need a 3-door Gemini to finish it out, so that hopefully Studio 27 or somebody can get off their collective heinies and make out the 1989 JTCC season. That'd be great. Pictures exist of that season. I've looked. So there's that. My plea not aside, there's that. So let's take a look at what came out this month. There's been quite a bit, obviously, with it being a whole month since the last time we did an episode. It's not nearly as much as you might think it is, but it's still a little bit. Up front, the Revell November stuff, not out yet. Yeah, it's December already, not out yet. Don't know where they're at. Maybe got caught in shipping. That's the only thing I can think of, because I've checked my hobby shop this morning, and their order has not come in yet. And usually comes in, should have come in the Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Did not. So we'll see. And that's the G Poncho and the 85 Oldsmobile FX3 or F3X show car that also can be built as a 442. So those two kits still out there. But we did get some other stuff in here. From round 2, all of these are going to be AMT kits, I believe. And they are the reissue of the George Barris Fireball 500 in George Barris commemorative packaging. Yes, just what you needed. Another chopped up Barracuda. You haven't seen this kit enough in your life, have you? Really, there's nothing much to talk about here other than obviously new decals. Also, it does come with a bonus trailer. So if you want to haul the Fireball 500 around, you have that option as well. I like to be enthusiastic about stuff, even when I don't like it. But really, honestly, this thing has been around more often than, Pamela Anderson. Sorry, first loose woman I could think of. Reissue of the Monte Carlo stock car, this time with the Bobby Allison Coca-Cola livery tie-in. So obviously new decals here. Same old kit. Makes sense over there. They got that Coca-Cola livery. They're milking it for every penny it's worth. Reissue of the 1974 Gremlin X. This is a 2-in-1. It's got pad-printed slicks, obviously retro box art and new decals. This is sort of the one Gremlin that they hadn't reissued, because they've reissued, of course, the 76 that came out in the original art series, and then they reissued the 75 that nobody seems to really give two hoots about. So I'm kind of interested to see if this thing isn't just going to become that dusty kit in the back of Hobby Lobby. But, for the people who are interested in AMCs and odd Malaise era cars, that option is available to you once again. And there's actually still one more round 2 kit that's going to come out probably in the beginning of December here, but was not out at the time of filming. And the other one that is this. It's the Richard Petty Race Team. First time that this has sort of been combined into one for a long time. This, of course, is the Ford Louisville hauler, last seen just as the Louisville hauler, and the little sportsman kit car, the little Mopar Dodge Dart, last seen as a Mopar Dodge Dart sportsman kit car. So nothing new here, just the packaging of the two into one box again, because this was something that was done back in the day. There's always the idea that the Petty family did not like this kit because there's a Ford pulling a Mopar, and of course, Rich Petty only ran Ford that 1 year was 1970. Don't feel the need to correct me. I don't care, but I know that there was 1 year they didn't run Mopars. But, that's the reason why it was never reissued, because you couldn't pack this Mopar on a Ford. Oh, my God. So, I don't know if there's a truth to that, because obviously here it is again. But for people who are kind of interested in making that team hauler kit, those are both there. They're both molded in white, not blue, so you will have to paint them. Most things you have to paint, but I know some people out there that would rather not. You would either rather be molded in color or whatever. And then the last thing on the domestic side of things, this was not a planned release because Mobius just does whatever they're doing whenever they do it. They have finally gotten out the street civilian version of their Pontiac Catalina. This is the sister kit, if you want to call it that, to the 1961 Pontiac Ventura. This was released a few months ago as a NASCAR kit. This, of course, is the factory stock civilian kit. This box art is very entertaining in the sense that it was built up with a test shot, which is very obvious in this case because it is missing the Pontiac logo on the front grille. It shows it on this box art, but if you look at the model on the side of the box, it does not have the Pontiac logo on the grille or the show the turn signals in the bumper. Those were two issues that the Ventura had, where the scripting was supposed to be on the grill, but somewhere in the process of final revisions, it got taken out, and there was just way too much chrome plating on the bumper, and it buried the turn signals. Those two things have been rectified. Anybody who has the NASCAR kits knows that they were fixed, but for anybody who did not get one of them, because you have to be into vintage NASCAR to pay for a model or a Model King kit that's more expensive. They did fix those two things. What is very, very amusing to me, box art wise, with this is that the kit was built with the hood askew, and then obviously what they did was just sort of draw over the kit to make the box art. So the box art's kit hood is askew too. That looks fucking fantastic. Pardon my French. It's not known as whether or not the kit hood wouldn't fit or not, but I do like the fact that if it doesn't, at least they advertise that it doesn't. That should have been filled in. It just looks bad. Regardless of what the kit content is, it just looks bad. So there's that. Then we have a bunch of stuff overseas, of course, as you might expect. We'll start over at BMAX, Hobby Nunu. Everybody who's seen this show knows that this kit was out, but it has finally been released in Japan, which means it has been released globally. I don't know if you're necessarily going to be able to pick it up at your local hobby shop. It depends on whether or not they carry BMAX or Platts distribution. Platts does a lot of armor stuff, so your local hobby shop could theoretically order this. Obviously, it's the 24 Hours of Spa 2016 winner. We're not going to go in depth with this because, like I said, I've had one for a while, and you've been able to buy them here in the United States for a while too. And there is the detail upset that, as we mentioned, includes important things for the car, like the dive planes, the tow hooks, and the inside window netting that does not come as plastic parts in the model kit, which is sort of an antithesis, if you will, to the whole BMAX thing, where usually the photo etch is something other than, rather than a replacement for. Or I should say, is a replacement for, rather than, it's not there. We have from Tamiya, we talked about this in the most recent Inside the Stash, that is the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 kit. So this was, again, because of the way Tamiya has been releasing kits for a while now, this kit was available in North America and I'm not sure it was available in Europe beforehand, because I know Spot Model just sort of got this in recently, but it was available in North America and in Hong Kong and other places before it was available in Japan. So it just came out a few weeks ago in Japan. Obviously, it came out towards the end of October here in the United States, but be that as it may, no matter where you want to buy it from, you can get that now While we're on the subject of that, somebody had mentioned, because we had no stash project lately, about liveries for these kits. A lot of people are panicking for some reason and not letting Studio 27 and other people do their jobs. They're all trying to buy, not RC cars, but slot car things. A lot of the slot car decals are pretty awful. Just being brutally honest there. There are some people like Decal Doc who do very, very nice Alps printed slot car stuff. Then there's some slot car stuff that looks like it was rushed to be there. Buyer beware. Do your research into what the decals are supposed to look like, because I know there's one decal manufacturer, I'm not going to dignify with the branding on the show here, that is doing a bunch of stuff where they're doing some of the Nuremberg cars where the Zurich 24 Hours of Zurich Nuremberg ring placards are the wrong shape. They're the right shape for one of the cars they're doing, but the wrong shape for the other three. The one was doing the Lincoln Park car that was a one-off that ran the 2016 24 Hours of Spa car. A lot of people want that for probably obvious reasons, Lincoln Park not being technically a band anymore. But the fonts are all wrong. The number fonts, if you will, the numbers are the wrong size. A lot of bad stuff out there. And the sad thing is they're being sold for like more than Studio 27 decals. Just, if you see some decals for the AMG GT, my suggestion to you would be to get on Google pictures of the real car, and see if they match or not. What Studio 27 has going on right now, there's 2 sets of decals that are already out here at the beginning of November, or beginning of December, excuse me. And they are this, which is the winning livery for the 2016 24 Hours of Nürburgring, the SAP livery, the number 4 car. This is the car that, again, won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. And then this, which is the Bilstein liveried car that finished 4th. Both of these are Black Falcon Racing. There's a couple of AMGs that finished 2nd and 3rd. They're HTP Motorsports, so we'll see what comes of that in terms of Studio 27 doing those decals. They've had a relationship with HTP Motorsports before, so it doesn't necessarily worry me that they didn't do 1st, 2nd in the first month. They did, actually, because the Bilstein one came out first. They actually did the 4th place car and then the 1st place car. So decals look great from the pictures. Mine are on the way over here right now. I plan to do the SAP car as soon as they get here with the one AMG kit that I have in stock that I showed you guys in the Inside the Stash video. My other 12, yeah, I said 12. The other 12 of them are still over there, and I'll ship them as I need them, or actually about a month from now they'll have to all come anyway. Gravity Colors is doing the Black Falcon Bilstein Blue to do the blue car, so that's supposed to be coming out next week sometime as far as being added to the Gravity Colors website. So if you want to do that car in the correct colors, Gravity's got you covered. And so there's that. So other thing we can say about decals for the AMG GT3 for December, they're going to be doing a carbon fiber set. There are some carbon fiber decals in the kit itself. There's one for the front splitter, one for the side trim around the side windows. But this is going to include the wings, the seats, all of the interior pieces, the splitter, all of the stuff you'd expect from a race car carbon fiber set from Studio 27. So that'll come out probably the middle to the end part of December. It's not officially announced, but Spot Model has it up for a pre-order, so I guess I could talk about it too. All right, so let's go on to kit reissues and whatnot here. We have Hasegawa, we got Fujimi, and we have, of course, Aoshima. So first, let's take a look at what we have from Hasegawa. Hasegawa actually probably give us the most unique things for the month. Several reissues that are long ago, but long ago reissues, things that have not been seen, quite honestly, in somewhere between 10 to 18 years in some cases, along with a brand new tool and also a modified reissue. So let's take a spin through what we have here. So first up, in the long ago and far away reissue line would be the BMW 318i. This is sort of a logical conclusion to the overall reissue scheme that Hasegawa's had going on for about the last, year and a half, almost 2 years now. where they are reissuing a lot of these 1990s kits and also the racing versions of them. Obviously, the racing versions of the 318i were the first ones to come out. We had talked about that, excuse me, earlier in the video, where they're reissuing for January, February, or January rather, the Soge security version of the JTCC car. So they've reissued the 320i a month or so ago, and now here comes the 318i. It is molded in the metallic blue, similar to the box art. Basically, between the 318 and the 320, there's not a lot of differences between the two kits. Mostly, it's badging on the decal sheet itself. But again, if you want that 94-ish 3 Series, obviously the other solution is to go find a 325 kit from Tamiya or Revell of Germany, but those can tend to be quite a bit pricey at this point in life. So obviously the, 18 or something dollar Hasegawa kit, granted it's curbside, whereas the Tamiya Revell of Germany kit, of course, is a full detail kit. But again, is the engine worth all that extra money? Keep in mind the Tamiya kit is a Revell of Germany kit. That was one of those weird swaps where Revell of Germany got some Revell of Germany sold a few things, or third party leased a few things to Tamiya as far as production runs went. That goes same thing with the Tamiya 840i kit. That's a Revell of Germany kit as well, just in a Tamiya box. Basically, those kits got new decals done by Tamiya, and they got new tires done by Tamiya. But other than that, the kits are identical to their Revell of Germany parents, if you will. Another reissue from the long ago and far away is this. This is the Jaguar XJS V12. This is basically the OG of the Hasegawa 124 scale model kits. This was the first one that was done, along with the Mitsubishi Galant rally car. Was the first rally car that they did. This was their first full detail kit back in 1984. It was reissued once in 2002, and again now in 2017. It is in the portrait landscape, obviously, as you can see here, and it is molded in red, like the box art indicates. I know a lot of people are going to sort of gripe, especially because people are in that delusional state of mind where they can't paint red model cars for some reason. But they are reissuing these kits like almost identical to the way they were done originally. Originally, the 318i is a blue molded kit. I have an original one, and the original 1984 XJS V12 is molded in red. I have an original one of those as well. So, I mean, sorry, but that's the way it always was. They're reissuing it almost as for the historical aspect of it as much as it is to get back out on the market. Now, again, obviously this was an easy kit to figure out that was coming once they had reissued the race TWR race version a couple months ago. Be interested to see if they issue the Cabriolet and the TWR street car as well. If they do all 4 of them, I imagine they probably will. Now, whether or not it's going to be like one after another through the first quarter of 2018, or this stretches out into, perhaps even 2019, can't say for sure. I mean, it took them almost 2 years to get out that last JTCC car. And I think that maybe if they're going to actually do all of the race cars, as they can find licensing for them, you have a lot of 3-door Civic and 4-door Civic race car kits that will probably get reissued in 2018 as well, I hope. So, whether or not you get the Cabriolet, in February or whatever is dubious at best. But this kit also, interestingly enough, can only be built in right-hand drive. It is a British UK spec vehicle, not Japanese. For future reference, should they reissue it, the Cabriolet version does come with left-hand drive, but this original 1984 kit was done as a British vehicle, so it only has right-hand drive. The one modified reissue for the month for Hasegawa is this. This is the BMW 2002 Turbo, of course, the follow-up kit to the 2000 Tii. This represents, of course, a later year body, so this actually has a whole new body tool done for it, beyond just the obvious things you would see with a 2002, like the lack of a front bumper and the front spoiler being attached and the over fenders being attached and new wheels and new grille being done. This actually has, like I said, a whole new body being done, because this car has the square taillights and required some modifications as far as the sheet metal goes to represent a 74 and later 2002. So it has the the cutouts in the body, if you will, for the square taillights. Also, there's some interior differences with the seats and things like that. Should be interesting to see what the third variation of this would be in terms of the 2002. I could foresee them doing a later 2002 Tii now that the body exists for it. Takes because remember there were some of those bonus parts that were in the original kit that allowed you to build the 2002 Tii either as like a 1971 or a 1973. Those 73 parts would carry over to the square body square taillight body. So again, it would not shock me. I know that probably won't make a lot of people happy because some people would like a full-on race car version of the 2002. But it would not surprise me if some point during 2018 you see a 2002, like 1974, 1975 version, just because all the parts exist for it. And to me, with what Hasegawa does, it seems like it would be a little silly for them not to cash in on the ability to make another model kit for what was really just a combination of parts at this point. Next up from Hasegawa is this. This is a reissue of their venerable 2000 GT Toyota kit. This includes the 1960s girls figure. I love for some reason the girls is apostrophe, which makes it possessive. So apparently you're going to get the girl's figure in here. Literally just the torso, no head, no nothing, just the figure. It has a head, obviously. This is a Japanese female as far as the facial characteristics go. This is sort of meant to be like an auto show type of deal. Obviously, she's being shown in what looks to be something like sunny California in this picture because I don't know too many places with palm trees in Japan. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some, but there's also some sort of Spanish-looking architecture going on in the background that you would mostly associate with Southern California. But the kit itself is the same kit it's always been, just the addition of the resin figure to this one. Reissue of the Toyota Celica 1600 GT with what is known as the production-type steel wheels. These are the factory stock wheels for the Celica. Anybody who knows Hasegawa stuff beyond just a casual inspection knows that there's been a 1600 GT kit done for a while. There was a street version because there's the race spec version and the race inspired version that's not a real race car, just looks like one. This one was done, I believe it was almost about 18 months ago, where they finally included the real factory stock rims with it because the Celica kit that has been around forever has Watanabes in it. So this is the first Celica that has the factory stock wheels, if you were. Then we have also a reissue of the Lamborghini Miura Superveloce. This one is being done as, chassis 5030 with the gold metallic. This is a restoration. You may recall we talked about this when they did the first one, which was sort of a metallic green. That Lamborghini has created a factory restoration program, and at least the first two things that they've decided to restore are Miuras. Makes sense. They're probably Lamborghini's most iconic, sports car prior to the Countach, rather. You have the other couple of Lamborghinis that ran between the Miura and the Countach, which I personally would love to see somebody do as a new model kit. I would be on board for both of the intervening Lamborghinis there. Kits of them do exist. Some of them are in weird scales. They're also formally motorized. The 124 scale stuff is kind of sketch. So it'd be great if Hasegawa can do it. I don't need it to be full detail. I just like to, the Miura's kind of got an engine, but not really. I'm perfectly fine with that for the other two as well. But, it is what it is. Other than the fact that this car is molded in gold, and it actually looks like, at least the one production shot I've seen it, looked like it wasn't too swirly-whirly. Because you generally when you get a metallic plastic that is cast in color, usually you tend to get swirls in the plastic, which means you really can't use the body naked, just putting like a clear coat on it or anything like that. Usually you'd have to paint it. The one I saw, not too bad. Now, whether or not that would work for yours, don't come complaining to me later because I can't verify every body. I'm not at the Hasegawa factory. But again, other than it being molded in gold, it's the same Miura kit as all the other ones. So this will probably be easiest to get, being that it's in stock right now. But beyond that, there's no real reason to buy that one specifically just to get a Miura. And then last but not least, from Hasegawa this month, this really came out on the last day of November, so it's brand new kit, and that is the brand new tool Honda Civic RS. This is a 3-door Civic representing the 1974 model year, brand spanking new tool. Everything about this is new, doesn't share any parts with anything else. Most of these Civics that you would see of this generation are 1/20th scale. I think there's like a couple of 1/24 scale kits out there, but they're 4 doors, or what technically would be a 5 door. So this is first of its kind here. Be prepared for many Civics to come. Based on what I've seen of the parts layout of this, once it was released, there are 15 parts on the trees that you do not use in this kit. Some of them are trim pieces, so that'll be very easy once you get one of these to look at what parts are blanked out on the instruction sheet, corresponding them with the chrome runner that has some of the trim pieces on it, and see what's going to be coming in the future. So I expect at least 3 versions of this, probably be another one here before, maybe in the first quarter, but at least in the second quarter, and then probably another one towards the end of the year. Be interested to see what all they do with this kit. There's, certainly a bunch of different years that they can do. They've molded it in such a way that, it's very easy to see where they're going to be able to change the car up from anything from, I think, a 71 is the first year of this body style, up through, I believe, 78 is the end of the second gen, which is pretty much the same car, just different front and rear fascia features. So again, it's very, to me, is one of those interesting kits where it's almost like, okay, well, whatever, it's a Civic. And I realize I'm a preponderance of Honda models for somebody who doesn't, like Hondas. I don't care one way or the other about Hondas. Not a Honda fanboy by any stretch of the imagination. But this is just a neat kit to have because it's one of those kits that just fills a hole in the legacy of a certain vehicle. Right now, of course, the only way to get a modern Honda Civic is to buy one of these Zoom-on resin kits. But a lot of the intervening Civics, starting with the Tamiya kits and going through, a lot of Fujimi stuff in between, and a Revell kit here and there, a lot of the Civics between the early 80s and the late 1990s are done in one form or another, several of them in several forms. So it's kind of cool to get this early Civic. It was definitely one of the kits that was a sort of a must-have for me in terms of what was being offered for the last part of this year. So that's pretty much the I guess end, so to speak, of Hasegawa stuff. There were a few other things that were supposed to come out this month that had not come out in November. So we'll move along to Fujimi now. Fujimi had a few things come out this month. They only had, I think, 4 kits total, and one of them had already come out earlier. So first up is a reissue of the Toyota Estima. This Estima can be done as a G, an X, or an Arius as far as the trim levels go. The G and the X are pretty much the same thing, just a different set of decals. Actually, one's all-wheel drive and one's rear-wheel drive. And then the Arius is the silver car in the background there. The difference between the GX and the Arius are the wheels themselves. I believe there might be 1 or 2 interior differences. And then the front bumper, rear bumper, there's a side body cladding that goes over the doors. And then there's also like a little rear spoiler above the hatchback. So there's, the differences there. Nothing substantial, but they've taken what were actually 3 different kits, because you could buy an Estima G, an Estima X, and an Estima Arius at one point in time, and they've combined all 3 into one kit. Obviously, you got to pick which trim level you want. You only get one model body in there, but it's kind of cool to see them combining these kits. Some of those trim level Estimas haven't been done for a little while. Next up is a reissue of their Nissan R34. This is a Snap-Tie kit. This time it is being done as a Satuma Prefecture police vehicle. This is a real thing. They do exist. They've done numbers and printing on the decal sheet for 4 different R34 GTRs. It was always my understanding there was one of them that existed, but could be 4. I mean, they're in Japan and I'm not, so I assume I'll just defer to them that they might be correct on that. The R34 GTR is one of those unicorn vehicles. A lot of people have always, heard that they existed. A lot of people didn't think they did exist, and then you'd see a YouTube video of one driving around. But they really do exist. They were given. Japan has had a thing for high-speed pursuit vehicles on their interstate highway system over there, or inter-country highway system. We've seen that. I mean, it's Mazda Cosmos, the R32, the R33, the R34. There's some R35s. There's a couple of Zs, 370Zs, 350Zs. So, a lot of these cars that they're doing in model format are not fantasy vehicles. They are legitimately real police vehicles in real life, and that is what this one is. Basically, they just added some parts out of their other police vehicles to the Snap-Tight kit. Obviously, some decals. Body's molded in white. This is not a pre-paint like a lot of the Aoshima kits are, so you will have to paint the black and white two-tone. I believe that the Widow's Peak on the hood is a decal, however, so at least you can get away with not having to mask off that little weird shape. The other reissue for the month of November from Fujimi is this Skyline GTR, the C10 version. This is like a 68 or so, 71, excuse me. 71 GTR. It's not a bad kit. I mean, it's a modern tool. It's not a motorized kit or anything else like that. But this kit, the Aoshima kit's an old motorized kit, so it's almost always like I don't really want to deal with that. This one is a modern tooling. It's like 90s, maybe early 2000s tooling that they did. I believe there's two sets of wheels in here, like a more factory stockish GTR set, and then a set of Watanabes. The thing about this and the little yellow blob on the bottom there is that it has the nameplate. We just talked about this in some of the new kits. So it's got a nameplate about probably almost longer than the car, because those early GTRs were not very big cars. That just says Skyline GTR KPGC 10 like the box art says, so you can display it with the model kit. Again, not a bad model all in all if you want to build a curbside version. It'll never really be the standard for the 71 GTR kind of thing because of the fact that the Tamiya kit, of course, is full detail, and most people would rather build the full detail one when the prices for these two kits are pretty much the same. And then last but not least, from Fujimi for the month of November is the reissue of their new tool. It just came out a couple of months ago, Circuit no Anami tie-in, but this is their Porsche 911 Carrera RSR 2.1 Turbo. We told you pretty much right when they made it that they were going to do a race version of this kit. Of course, Studio 27 has done decals for, I believe, 3 different liveries now, along with those detail upsets. We showed you the one that I got. They've done the decals actually for this car itself, so if you didn't want to use these decals, the Studio 27 decals exist, although you don't need to buy this kit either. You could buy the other one and just use the decals. They've done the decals for the, 6 hours of Watkins Glen car and the 24 hours of Daytona car. This one represents the 1974 24 hours of Le Mans. There's 2 different team cars in here. The 22 and I believe the 23 is also carried in here. The 22, I believe, finished second or third. I had the number written down somewhere, but it's not in this book. It is the most successful finish of this car. They only made 2 of these, well, 3 of them technically, because they took an older 73 Carrera and put it on the new chassis, but it never raced. It was just a test car. They made 2 of these, as we talked about before, when they announced this kit. This was the most successful of them. The car itself now belongs in a private British collection. Again, I will not at all be surprised to see them make the second one, which is the one that ran the 74 24 hours of Spa and finished, I believe, 3rd or 4th. That car is the one that's in the Porsche Museum, and that is the car that they measured in person. So it makes sense that they have, all the reference pictures to do the one that they obviously saw in person. So expect to see at some point in the future that kit will come around too. And that is the one set of livery, by the way, the Studio 27 hasn't done. So it makes me think that one's probably going to come. A little conversation was had behind the scenes of, hey, stop cutting into our kit sales. You made a set of decals for a kit that we announced 3 days later. That was, kind of a dick move, if you want to call it that, but it is what it is. Then over to Aoshima. Alright, so Aoshima's got some stock restocks here, in the sense of being just things that are going back into vendors to replenish things that have sold out, and they have a couple of sets of wheels here, as well as, of course, their reissues and whatnot for the model car, tuned model car lineup. So, first up, let's take a look at 2 kits that actually came out at the end of October, which should have been done, of course, last month, but we didn't do any videos last month. They are the Cedric Gloria 430E VE Brome VIP 1983. Lots of letters and numbers there, but the basic gag here is that the Brome VIPs, which was a trim level, the VIP part, it's not VIP in your traditional Japanese sedan sense of having big wheels and all that sort of stuff, was a trim level. This is sort of the most fancy, if you will, Gloria and Cedrics you could get. All the trim you might notice on the box art there was gold. the four-door hardtop Bromes were that hard tops rather than sedans, so they are pillarless as far as the B pillar goes. So that's sort of the differentiation between this Cedric and Gloria kit and the other one of the same era. One is a sedan, one is a hardtop. Pretty much the differences here are the grills and the rear taillight areas. One, for the Gloria, one for the Cedric. This kit has stock wheels in it for the first time, which were something that has not come in the past. Usually in the past they had some sort of custom wheel or another. These are Best Car Vintage kits in their origin, so they are motorized and all the rest of that stuff. But again, this is the first time that these kits have really been available to build factory stock with appropriate wheels and tires ever. So there's that. And then the other one is this. This is the Nissan Skyline R30, done up as a 2000 Turbo RSX. You can do this as either an RS Turbo or the RSX. Again, trim level differentiations are the key here, as well as the decals to provide those. This, again, has a factory stock set of wheels added to it for the first time. This is, 2 generations before the GTR would start, but this 2000 Turbo would have been the most performance-oriented vehicle that was available as a Skyline in the mid-1980s. So those two kits are pretty neat in the sense that they've been sort of tuned up a little bit, if you will, to make them a little more interesting for resale, as well as, again, being the first time that you could actually buy those two kits with being completely factory stock. Wheel sets for the month of November were 20-inch wheel VIP wheels, and they are the Kranze Barazia, the Fabulous Genesis, the Bersilagio Spoke 3 MFs, and the Leonhardt Ordens. So you saw there that basically 3 of those were on Toyotas and one's on a van. You put them on whatever you want to. That'll fit a 20-inch wheel, of course. But for the VIP folks out there, you got some more options there. I don't think those ones specifically have been out for a little while. They're not wheels that automatically pop into my mind when I think, oh yeah, repop of VIP wheels. So a couple different options there that you normally would not perhaps have. On the reissue thing, these again are just restocking things. You have the Ken and Mary Works 2-door, the little blue one from 2015. This will be number 8 as far as the kit series goes. This is still probably one of the coolest vintage Liberty Walk kits, at least to me. Representing like a 1973 Skyline that they, of course, did their magic to, or their ugliness, depending on how you feel about Liberty Walk stuff. I just wish that this kit, aside from the outside, which really does represent the car pretty well, represented the car a little bit more on the interior. It would be something I would actually consider getting, because this car, again, we've talked about it every time it gets reissued. I think this car is a really cool piece just in general. And then the other reissue is the first of the Liberty Walk kits that was done. This is a Skyline 4-door. This one was, again, had its handle jiggled, so to speak, later on in life. As far as a different option to build it, this is the original Liberty Walk, one of the original Liberty Walk cars. It was done in 1/1, and again, it's the #1 kit as far as the kit series goes. Moving on from there, you have a reissue of the Toyota 86 Rocket Bunny kit. This is, of course, the Enki Wheels version with the red box art. Nothing new here, just a straight reissue. A reissue of the Nissan GTR R35 Pure Edition. This is, of course, the 2014 trim level for that. The reissue of the Mitsubishi Delica Star Wagon, or the Delicious Star Wagon, as we like to call it. Just cool to see this kit actually sold out. It's such an odd concept car, or odd concept for a car for it to sell at a mass volume. But again, it hasn't been out for probably 10 or 15 years before this was done up in the model car lineup originally here a few months ago. So not surprising that sold out. Just was a hard kit to get a hold of necessarily. And then I think the last reissue that we got this month was the Liberty, or the Liberty, wow, I want to call everything a Liberty Walk, was the Lamborghini Aventador Super Veloce. Again, straight reissue of the, an only about, I guess almost a year old now. It was supposed to come out in December, but I think it ended up being, February or so before this kit actually came out. So not even a whole year old yet, and I think this is the second time it's been reissued, so this Aventador has been a really good seller for them. Always a good thing to see. The more they sell, the more they can make other things if you're not particularly into that specific kit. And so the kits that actually came out this month in November, that were kits that were could be put into the new boxing series. We only got one of the model car kits. The other ones have slid into December, but we got both of the Tune model car. So the Tune model car lineup stuff was one more I forgot there. This is a reissue. This is the Toyota Hilux double cab lift up. This is just I think this is technically in the model car lineup, the Tune model car lineup, but whatever it is, it's a reissue of that. All right, so on time, the thing for November is another Toyota Hilux. These are side by side in my image files by accident. Is the Hilux Custom. This, of course, is a 1990s US spec front bumper and front grille, but it is a JDM truck. Otherwise, it is right-hand drive only. You guys know this stuff because these are not this is not the first time this kit's been reissued. Since we've been doing this show, it might be the fifth or sixth time at this point. It has two sets of wheels, but you are kind of encumbered by the fact that the suspension is lowered. It does come with like hydraulic, system as far as like the hydraulic canisters and the air ride canisters and all that sort of thing. But it's lowered, and there's nothing you could do about that. The suspension is done in such a way as that it's only a low rider, so know that going in. The other two model car thing for November is this S15 Nissan Silvia in the Rodex style tuner package, if you want to call it that. It is more of a a aero package and wheels than it is anything else. There's no engine in this kit. I don't know when the last time the Rodex style was out. It's been long enough that it's probably more than 10 years, because it's not something that is sitting around the echo chamber that is Hobby Search, in the sense that you can look up instructions to pretty much any Japanese kit there, so long as it's not more than 10 years old. And this kit is not on there, so I don't know much beyond what you're seeing in the box here that's different from the normal S15 Silvia. Obviously, it's got a different set of wheels, and it's got a whole bunch of ground effects, and it's got sort of a GT3 spoiler to it, where obviously the regular S15 Silvia kit doesn't come with all that kind of stuff. And then what'll be last but not least for this entire video and for Aoshima is the reissue of the Cedric Gloria Y31 generation kit. This is done up as a 1987 with the twin cam turbo Gran Turismo trim package, which was, again, the top of the line trim package you could get in this car. I'm kind of disappointed in this kit in the fact that it does not include, granted it's a 1987 model year, but it does not include the late parts, which were for this kit 3 pieces that were later added to the tooling for the clear tree. Which basically changes out the taillights and the license plate holder into a different style, and that was legitimately the only upgrade that was really done to this car after 1987 to the Cedric. I think the Gloria is probably the same thing as far as what the taillights look like, because they're pretty much the same sort of taillight setup. They're just, if you look, the Gloria's on the bottom and the Cedric's on the top of the box art here. The turn signals are on the top or the bottom, depending which one, and obviously the grille is different. But these kits are, there was nothing new added to these kits. These are just straight reissues. I think they might have put the aluminum license plate backs in this kit, but other than that, these are kits from, the late 1980s. It is Best Car Vintage GT kind of baseline. It's not that bad. This chassis for this comes out of the earlier 430 Cedric and 330 Cedric, but as each generation of the car came by, they would tweak the suspension a little bit and tweak the chassis a little bit to make it a little less motorized. Like this one doesn't have the motor carriage and the switch and all that stuff in it, but it is still a very, very, very basic motorized chassis nonetheless. I have the S-Parts version for one of these Cedrics. And I didn't buy this specific kit mainly because Fujimi had already reissued their Y31 kits about 9-10 months ago. It may actually be more than like a year and a half ago at this point. And so the only reason I would have bought one of these is if I could have got the late parts, because the Fujimi kits do not represent the late version. But unfortunately, those parts, those 3 pieces, are not in here, and trying to find one of the late edition versions of this kit is a tantamount to mining gold in, I don't know, Dubuque, Iowa, because there is literally none of them available. One popped up on eBay here last week for $285, which is something around the neighborhood of, I don't know, 10 times more than it cost when it was new. Not going to happen for you. Sorry, Mr. Japanese Sailor. Nobody's going to sell a sailor. Japanese seller. Nobody's going to pay $285 for a $28 model kit. I guess I might find some guy who's like, oh my god, I don't care what it costs, I have to have it. But that guy is not this guy. So anyway, guys, that'll catch you up on everything. Sorry about the weird hard edits in this video. Obviously this was done over a multitude of times. I might be in the same shirt now, but you can tell the sun is in my eye because it's a little later in the afternoon. Just running around was just the only way we get it done, was chop it up in 3 pieces. But hey, at least it's done. So there is that. And then next week's should be pretty brief, in the sense that I don't think there's going to be a whole heck of a lot going on between the 1st and the 7th, so, or the 8th. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the coughing, hacking, throat thing, and we'll see you guys.